Jeskai Aggro, which again looks to be a very popular deck this weekend. However, Mark Evaldi is the opponent, and he is playing the Blue Red Sphinx's tutelage deck that Michael Majors won a Grand Prix with.
Now, Rudy, I believe, gave this deck list or copied this deck list from Rob Vaughn, who top-aided the IQ with this list last week in Cincinnati. Felt the deck's very, very powerful, and I believe this is the exact same list down to the one copy of Pia and Kieran Nallar.
Ah, fair enough. Well, we are underway here in a Magnetic Insight is where Evaldi will start things off. So discards a land and Shivan Reef, draws 2 cards. And Briksza with just a Mystic Monastery out there. Briksza will draw. He's got a Hangerback Walker in hand. Our first time seeing it, and it will be deployed. Now, the tutelage deck is, well, it's something.
It is something, and if you want to talk about a deck that's good against Hangerback Walker, here you go. Hangerback Walker is very slow in this matchup. The tutelage deck is not interested in combat at all. It's an Andrew Cuneo deck, so the attack step basically doesn't exist.
That's true.
And some of its removal just happens to exile. You have things like Magma Spray and Anger of the Gods to answer it as well. So if you want to beat Hangerback Walker, this is one way to do it.
Does have a couple copies of Jace of Vryn's Prodigy as far as creatures are concerned. But for Evaldi and this Sphinx's tutelage deck, you want to find Sphinx's tutelage, and get it on the battlefield and start drawing cards like crazy, and you can mill them out in 2 or 3 turns. It doesn't take any time at all.
It is very, very fast. Tormenting Voice, Magnetic Insight.
Don't you forget about Treasure Cruise either.
Treasure Cruise.
And Treasure Cruise in this deck, there's already 4 cards in the graveyard. That's a 1-mana spell in this deck. You saw Evaldi cast another Magnetic Insight, play a Temple of Epiphany, scry to the bottom, pass the turn back. The weakness of this deck is that it can't win without Sphinx's tutelage. So that is the problem, per se.
But you have a lot of ways to get to it.
Yes. Here's Soulfire Grandmaster. Briksza will pass the turn back, ready to charge up the Hangerback Walker. Sphinx's tutelage is what Mark Evaldi has just found.
Evaldi with a very strong hand right now. Has picked up the tutelage, has Anger of the Gods as well. Still at 20.
Pretty good spot to be in. Looks like he's going to go with Anger of the Gods for now. Clear everything out. Briksza will just play another Hangerback Walker, pass the turn back. There's the tutelage. There's the powerful enchantment.
And Evaldi has not missed a beat thus far.
Nope.
Looking at a lot of cards. Got the board stable. Appears to have another card drawer in hand alongside a lot of blue spells. Don't know what the blue spells are. Can't be bad.
Yeah.
They're blue spells.
That's kind of how it works in this deck. There's Harbinger of the Tides. Not
Womp womp.
Not for this matchup, I think you could say. We'll repeat. We'll stop there. Now it's super happy fun time if you're Mark.
But you can see, for all the hype of Hangerback Walker, in this matchup, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It is just so slow. And this tutelage deck is not engaging in combat. So it mucking up the ground and making a bunch of chump blockers and all that kind of stuff, that's in this matchup, it's just a very, very slow threat.
Magnetic Insight, let's trigger the tutelage. That's 1, no repeat. Now we go again, no repeat. Now Mark will draw his cards, of course. What's next here? I think maybe just another Anger of the Gods, clean this stuff up. Yep. Mark is making this look pretty easy. There's a Temple.
Still at 20.
Yeah.
Briksza has not been able to get anything going.
Briksza with a Mantis Rider. That's something at least. Mantis Rider going to come in and deal 3 points of damage, but Evaldi can probably win the race. Especially if he has 1 copy of Treasure Cruise to start really going nuts.
Even if he just has land number 6. Just being able to activate the tutelage.
That's rare for this deck.
Even in the worst case scenario, the race is still good for him.
Yeah.
And he can probably do better than that.
Alhammaret's Archive
Sweet.
has arrived. If you would gain life, gain twice that much life, you would draw a card except for the first one. Draw 2 cards instead. Looking to mill you down. So tutelage trigger. No repeat. And there are a couple of copies of Tormenting Voice over here, so this is going to get a little awkward for Rudy.
Also, the looting mode now much better.
Oh, look at you.
I don't think it's going to come to that. I think Briksza's going to die. And I'm going to set the line at 2.5 turns.
I'll take the under.
You take the under? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to be here much longer for this game. And truth be told, what Mark is playing, if you think about it, it's a combo deck.
Oh, for sure.
That's what this is.
It's got a control package. Obviously, there's a lot of removal and card drawing and so forth, but he's trying to make the game about something other than combat. And Standard that qualifies as a combo deck.
The thing that Evaldi's trying to do right now is just figure out what's the best way to go about getting this game over with. Again, with some copies of Tormenting Voice in hand, it seems like a pretty natural place to start. He does have a copy of Dig Through Time in hand, however, and so you might be considering doing that, but Treasure Cruise is really where you want to be with the graveyard for this deck, so a couple different things to take into account. However, here's a Tormenting Voice, so he's going to read all 3 cards. Sphinx's Tutelage, Alhammaret's Archive, and then Tormenting Voice. So we're going to get a bunch of triggers, and it's going to be a repeat. Okay, and now here's the 4th one. That's going to be a repeat. All right, now we stop. So now he gets to draw 4 cards from Tormenting Voice. See, isn't that fun? Because whenever you draw a card, past the first draw, you draw 2. So Tormenting Voice draws 4. Now, if I'm Mark, I kind of want to do that again.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I said we run it back. Hasn't played a land yet for the turn, so he'll play a mountain.
Trying to hold off for that Swiftwater Cliffs for 2 life. 2, because of the archive.
There's a Tormenting Voice.
This is probably faster.
Maybe. So draw 4. I'm going to mill you a bunch. That's trigger 1. That's trigger 2. That's trigger 3. That's trigger 4. No repeats, oddly enough. Now, Evaldi is not done yet. You should have set the line at 1.5.
Yeah.
And I would have still taken the under.
Yeah, 2.5 was a bad line.
Yeah, not good. And Rudy's all done here.
I guess 0 was.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark Evaldi's going to win game number 1 here over Rudy Briksza. Blue-red Tutelage up a game here over a Jeskai Aggro, the Grand Prix winning deck. Looking very impressive. Now, I think the difficult thing here for Rudy, though we'll take a look at the sideboard, I can't imagine he has much hate against this.
Nope. He does not. A copy of Exquisite Firecraft, a Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, a Stratus Dancer, 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, Negate, a Master of the Unseen, 3 Irrational Clerics, a Bramaz, King of Oreskos, a Glare of Heresy, an Elspeth Sun's Champion, a Tragic Arrogance, a Dragon Lord Ojutai. I mean, there's very little here. I think Dragon Lord Ojutai, Exquisite Firecraft, Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, Stratus Dancer, 2 Disdainful Strokes, and a Negate are all fine cards to bring in. I don't think it dramatically changes his fortunes, and he's got a lot of bad cards in his main deck. The red removal spells, Ojutai's command does very little here. His threats are not that fast. He has some cards to bring in, but not enough to make the matchup acceptable.
Other side of things here for Mark, he's got Anger of the Gods, 2 Rose, 3 Magma Sprays, a couple copies of Encase Nice, 4 Negates, which are obviously nice, 2 Disdainful Strokes, and then a Talent of the Telepath, another mill card. That said, I don't know how much he needs to change, really.
Well, and he's got great options, too. I think Negate, the Magma Sprays, the Rose, the Anger of the Gods, and the Talent of the Telepath are all fine cards for him to bring in here. But you know, I wouldn't want to dilute the deck all that much because I think his game 1 plan is very good. There's 3 copies of Jace Vryn's Prodigy in his list. I think those are very easy to cut because Rudy's going to be leaving in some burn spells. He only has so much to bring in. But the rest of the deck is just, it's all engine. I wouldn't want to touch much of it. Maybe cut some of the expensive card drawers under the assumption that Rudy will have access to Disdainful Stroke.
Fair enough. Those are the options there for both players. And as they do get ready here for game number 2, we got to talk about our Season 2 Invitational Champion one more time because, well, there's not a lot of time left to get his awesome token. It's Ali Antrazi. He's an Angel token, and there's a couple ways to get it.
Yeah, our Open Series players, our 2-day $20,000 Open Series players who register, they get this token. Any 5K Premier IQ, both the ones at the Open Series events and the ones that you can bring to your local store. And all orders from StarCityGames.com, $5 or more. Now remember, we're switching over to the Alex Pistecki token October the 2nd, noon Eastern time. So if you want to get your hands on the Ali Antrazi Angel token, you are running out of time. Place an order at StarCityGames.com as soon as possible.
Ali Antrazi, Season 2 Invitational Champion. He's headed to the Players' Championship, and potentially so is Rudy Briksza, who's really in a fight for things here. But as we've said so many times, all it takes is one Open Series win to get the job done, and, well, he's won 2 of them.
Yep, playing in a lot of the Open Series events, playing a lot of IQs as well. A player who's on the outside looking in right now on page 2 of the standings, has 2 buys for the Open Series as a result of being in the top 16 and within striking distance of making the Players' Championship.
Martial artist background with purple belt in several disciplines, and when I was joking during one broadcast I should challenge him to a duel, he was ready to go.
Yeah,
so I
just wouldn't.
I backed down.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess around with that.
He's just ready to fight.
That's there's few things in all of human endeavors where a skill gap is noticeable than in fighting. If one person knows how to fight and the other person does not know how to, it manifests very quickly and in a way that's very bad.
Just ready to do battle. And I don't do karate. So
I tried to warn you. I would not have gone around running my mouth about that.
Fair enough. Played soccer in high school. I'll challenge him to that. I played soccer for 14 years. I don't mind doing that. Leading several plays throughout his life, well, I don't act.
Yep.
I don't act. That's not my area of expertise. Martial arts, acting, not so much for me. Soccer, anytime, anywhere, any place, anybody. Got that? You want to go in the soccer? Let's go.
I played very little soccer.
Let's go. I'll challenge you anywhere. Basketball, I wouldn't challenge you. I know my limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I just wouldn't be able to bear it if you crushed me at basketball because you would be insufferable.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Rudy's going to take a mulligan. Look, after what you've been doing to people with gut shot on Magic Online recently,
I've been.
You would be insufferable if you beat me in a game of basketball.
Well,
the people don't know. The people do not know.
The thing is, Magic Online, it has many purposes. One of the best purposes it's an outlet for your most misanthropic behaviors and tendencies. You can say whatever you want just out loud in your room as you're gut-shotting someone's vault skirts. They're trying to put a cranial plating on while they're tapped out, and while you're tapped out, rather, or, being on the draw against Infect and they play Glistener Elf and you go turn one, gut shot it, play a Lava Mancer, go. That's your opportunity to be the worst human being you can be.
And you're doing a great job of that.
Listen.
Oh, I'm listening.
I got to play nice. I got to play nice my whole life, I'm an adult now. I work in an office. I do this with you. I have a lot of opportunities to just let it out. And Magic Online, and specifically Gut Shot, gives me that opportunity.
That's very important. That is a Jace here from Rudy Briksza. You saw Evaldi start off with a magmatic insight.
You see, Rudy's hand is fine, but I don't think it's beating Anger of the Gods this game, or it's going to be very hard to beat Anger of the Gods.
I don't think a lot of his hands are beating Anger of the Gods. I think that's kind of the problem with this deck in the truth be told, what's happening here is that Rudy brought his deck for a different metagame, like a different matchup and metagame.
Yep.
He's not expecting to play against this. And I don't think many people in the room are expecting to play against this deck. Like, this was the hot deck like a month ago, right? Like, Matrix has his win at the Grand Prix. Kunio has a good performance at the Pro Tour with it. And then this is a very easy deck to say, okay, I'm not losing to this nonsense. I will bring the appropriate hate to beat this deck, and then it goes away. But it can also come back and take people by surprise in a big way.
I think that this deck is harder to hate out than people assume. You have a lot of very good removal spells, and so just trying to rush it out of the gates is not necessarily a winning game plan. And I think you can sideboard in such a way to have good game against decks like Abzan. I think this deck, it's funny to watch, and Kunio's got this reputation for playing these funky decks. I think this deck is a lot better than people give it credit for.
Here's Anger of the Gods. Looking to get the Mantis Rider and the Jace off the battlefield. Briksza will activate the Jace right now.
And the problem with Anger of the Gods, a lot of decks have Anger of the Gods. The problem is that not only does Rudy have to beat Anger of the Gods, his deck has so much dead weight. It's not like you're beating Anger of the Gods out of a Mardu deck where at least your red spells are trading with their red spells. It's a matchup where you're already glutted with cards that don't do anything, and you're getting hit with these 2-for-1s. It's tough to manage the whole thing.
There's a Shivan Reef. Might be time for another Anger of the Gods. Yep, clean that out of the way. Rudy will draw. Picked up a copy of Evolving Wilds. Another Mantis Rider. He's drawn 3. Evaldi's down to 10. There's the Evolving Wilds. Pass the turn back. Evaldi will draw. I think Evaldi does have a copy. Actually, he's got 2 copies of Sphinx's Tutelage, and he just hasn't had the opportunity to deploy them just yet.
I was about to comment, something that's a little odd to me about this deck list. This seems like a deck that could very easily be just playing with Fiery Impulse instead of these Magma Sprays. How much you care about exiling something like Hangerback Walker doesn't seem like it matters all that much, but you turn on Spell Mastery really easily, and it's the most noticeable it is against Mantis Rider. Because it's 3 toughness, and you have to kill it as soon as possible.
Right now, it's very noticeable. Because now Evaldi is kind of in some trouble. I would say he's in some trouble now.
For sure. I mean, he's got a lot of draws to find answers, but he needs to find it very soon.
Rudy will sacrifice that Evolving Wilds. Get an island. Now, can he race Rudy with the milling strategy? Potentially. He's got another copy of Sphinx Tutelage in hand. And we could see him go absolutely nuts here, but he's at 10, going to 7 right now. Now, Rudy with Treasure Cruise in hand, that's a little risky. Here's the Sphinx Tutelage trigger. Just 2 lands, nothing crazy. Radiant Fountain's pretty nice.
It's a good one.
That'll bring up to 9. That might be a whole nother turn. This might be a good time to play the other Tutelage and then cast Tormenting Voice and try to go really nuts.
Sweet turn.
Yeah, I don't hate that turn.
You have a little bit of a cushion right now. Rudy's hand is not great. Mark doesn't know this, but...
Yep. There's another Tutelage.
I think Evaldi needs to set himself up. Tormenting Voice this turn, mill for a bunch. Untap, you have a cheap Treasure Cruise. If you find an answer to Mana Strider, that's great. And you might chain together another card drawers to just kill Rudy.
Yeah, when you have two Tutelages out there, yeah, you could just kill him. And I like discarding the Monastery Siege here. It's just too slow to get going. Yep. So there'll be 4 triggers here. So let's take a look at Rudy. 1, no good. 2, no good. 3, let's go again. 3 is done. How about number 4? 4 is done. All right. That'll be Evaldi's turn. Here's Harbinger of the Tides.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, what you got to cast it.
You got to do something, right?
And now Rudy can draw to one of his deal 4s, and he can win this turn.
Yep. He's got outs to win this turn. Another Mana Strider will do 3, 6, 7. No, another Mana Strider will not do. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's got to be 4.
Yep. Treasure Cruise. Draw a couple. Jeskai Charm. Exquisite Firecraft, too. Yeah. They'll both work. Here's an attack for 5. Plus 4 is 9. Mark Evaldi's life total is 9. Let's play a third game, shall we? As Rudy Briksza does tie things up here against Mark Evaldi. Jeskai Aggro, blue-red Tutelage, getting ready for game number 3. Though there is a big difference between being on the play and on the draw.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Mark getting to resolve a card draw early on in the game, maybe play Tutelage on 3 on an empty board, and then start managing the board and playing his card drawers. It's very different. But you can see a winning recipe from Briksza there is just apply a lot of pressure. Evaldi had some sweepers, but he couldn't answer the last card. And, you know, in a straight-up race, Mana Strider is going to win over Sphinx's Tutelage a really good percentage of the time, especially if Rudy's gotten in a couple chip shots along the way.
Well, one way that Rudy Briksza has been able to keep up in this racing, keep his head above water, is we know he's been playing a healthy amount of Stars Games Invitational qualifiers. It's a great way to have some organized play in your store, qualify for our invitationals, and keep your head above water in the Players' Championship race.
Yeah, there's a lot of good benefits of playing these Open Series events. If you're just trying to play some more local organized play, well, you have some large cash tournaments to play in. And if you're trying to qualify for the Invitational, it's a great route to do that. And for a lot of people who are trying to get to the Players' Championship this year, IQs are a really important way of supplementing the points they're receiving in Open Series events and at the Invitationals. Comes with a lot of stuff, including the qualification for the Invitational, playmats, top 8 pins, winners tokens, and SCG premium vouchers. StarsGame.com/IQ for more information. Get your local store to run any version of them, regulars, supers, elites, and the premier ones that we do have on day 2 of the Open Series. And we'll have 2 of them tomorrow. We got a standard main event, which means the IQs that we have tomorrow, the 2 other formats, Modern and Legacy. So brainstorms. Gut shots.
And gut shots. Modern staple card gut shot. So, you know, we have to... You're going to have to rank your best gut shots. Right now, I know the Vault Scourge one is still at the top.
Yeah.
That's number 1 right now. But the gut shot last night while we were playing Magic Online on that Glistener Elf.
The gut shot, the tapped out gut shot on a Heritage Druid in response to the 3rd Elf coming into play, that one was really good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. There should be a photo every time, and then we can rank them.
Right.
I think that's very important. Get a graphic and rank Patrick's best gut shots.
Yeah, the problem is that we need a new platform for this. The Moto Photos has become a cesspool of mediocre photos and captions, so I don't want to...
Oh, yeah, that's long gone.
Right.
Now we can make it Patrick's Moto Photos.
Right.
See, it's simple. I'm a branding genius. It's not hard. And really, just the gut shots, it's more about your reaction.
Right. Because I can imagine what my opponent's reaction is.
Yes.
To their Heritage Druid being killed in response to their third out.
For example, the Vault Scourge game. A game the opponent definitely could still win.
Yeah.
Your
was
hand
bad news.
was horrible.
Listen, the gut shot was bad news, but there was definitely still a game.
Yeah.
For sure a game. Just tanked for about 30 seconds and conceded. His worldview could not handle what had just happened.
He simply could not go on any further.
Right. It was time to go do something else.
And if my Vault Scourge, I was about to gain 9 life, and I played a second Mox Opal to equip my second cranioplating, got gut-shotted, I wouldn't be able to go on either.
Right.
So I completely sympathize.
It's just how can you believe in anything anymore when something like that happens to you, you know? How are you supposed to go forward?
Modern staple.
It starts raising all these questions about what reality is and whether or not we have agency over our, it's a complicated thing. At that point, you're better off probably just logging off and going and watching cartoons.
Call it a night.
Call it a night.
Yep. Throw on an episode of Bob's Burgers or whatever cartoon you watch.
Bob's Burgers is a fun choice. Read a book.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the cartoons.
Whatever, but you cannot just be playing Magic after something like that happens.
What's that cartoon? Starts with an A that Bob's Burgers guy does?
Archer.
Archer, that's it.
The Nuts.
Haven't gotten around to seeing it. Everyone tells me I need to watch it. I know. Okay, I get it. Here's a polluted delta.
Let's imagine there's a joke, and the joke is really good, but it's the same joke in some way or another over and over again. I can still laugh at the same joke, and so for me, Archer's great. Some people can't, and so Archer's less good, but I think the show's quite funny.
So that really explains why you enjoy gut-shotting people so much.
It's the same story.
Joke.
It's funny every time.
We're full circle here in the booth. A tormenting voice discarding an island. We head back Rudy's way. He's got another Mystic Monastery.
The setup's different. Sometimes it's Vault Scourge, sometimes it's Blighted Agent, sometimes it's Heritage Druid, but it's always the same joke.
Sometimes it's Sphinx's Tutelage, which you can't gut-shot.
Sometimes it's Soul Warden.
Yeah. Here's a Mantis Rider. Flooded Strand's going to search up either an island or a plains. Rudy will go with an island. And now Mark is under the gun a little bit, but he's got Sphinx's Tutelage out there, so it's a good place to be.
Yeah, this is where the difference between play and draw is going to show up in this game big time.
It is absolutely huge.
Because Evaldi was not that far away from being able to take over the game with card drawers last game. Just didn't have quite enough time.
Tutelage Trigger, that's 1. Let's make it 2, and we'll stop at 2. 4 cards turned over. Anger of the Gods here in Mark's hand does have the necessary mana to cast it, but the question now is, does he want to maybe get Monastery Siege online first to really have some fun, or does he just want to cast Anger now? Looks like he's just going to cast Anger now. Pass the turn back. Does have a card like Send to Sleep in hand currently. Now, Rudy last game, he drew 3 Mantis Riders, and he needed all 3. Assuming he draws this game, now there is an Evolving Wilds he's sacrificing in the main phase to get a basic mountain.
Unfortunately for him, one of his best sideboard cards for the matchup, Sarkhan Dragon Speaker, that's already been milled over.
Yep.
After this match is over, we'll come back and talk about the new battle lands. So just scroll through those when we're talking about them, and we'll take a breath.
Treasure Cruise time. Rudy, you can't draw cards against the mill deck.
Well, it's very painful for this to be his turn. He needs to put Evaldi under as much pressure as possible. Every time Evaldi gets some breathing space to just untap and play card drawing spells, it's very hard for Briksza to win.
Basically a time walk. Rudy will go again here. And again. And we'll stop at 6 cards. I had mentioned on social media the Hangerback Walker was a card I was very wrong about as far as my assessment is concerned. I also thought Sphinx's Tutelage would be unplayable. At no point did I think this card would do anything.
Yeah, I'm not very good at, these kind of cards, I'm not the best at building decks around. Believe it or not.
I do believe it. Trust me.
I'm more of a Fire Drinker Satyr kind of guy.
Treasure Cruise going to mill over 6 cards.
But I am surprised by how good this card is.
This is what makes Magic great.
Yep.
Just some cards are fairly obvious, yes, and then we get to, like a card like Siege Rhino, yeah, that card's good. Okay, let's move on. But, a lot of other cards you get to have some real discussion about.
And a lot of it is a function of these oddball draw 2s that Red has.
Yep.
Magnetic Insight and Tormenting Voice. Without those cards, this deck may not exist. So it's a lot of little pieces.
One of my favorite things is now when Battle for Zendikar, the whole entire thing is spoiled. Someone's been looking through the spoilers. Is there any more draw 2s, discard 1s, or is there like an Ideas Unbounded that get reprinted and they didn't know they made some gigantic mistake? Like, that's the best thing that happens.
Yeah, Burning Insight or whatever.
Yeah, Burning Inquiry.
Oh, Inquiry, yeah.
Big mistake. Now my Sphinx's Tutelage deck is unbeatable.
Could you imagine something like Faithless Looting in this deck?
No, I can't.
It would not take a lot to tip this over.
Evaldi very far ahead this game. He's at 15. Briksza's entire turn was playing a morph. Anger of the Gods can clear away the morph. The morph right now, for the record, is a Stratus Dancer. If he wants to get Monastery of Siege online, he can. He's got a copy of Tormenting Voice. Graveyard's pretty full.
A lot of good routes here.
Looks like he's going to start with Tormenting Voice. Going to mill over at least 4 cards from Briksza, and he does. Picked another copy of Sphinx's Tutelage and another Anger of the Gods, so that might incentivize him to want to cast the first Anger, since he does have a backup copy.
And the morph is most likely Stratus Dancer.
Yep.
Ash Cloud Phoenix you probably would have seen straight up, and not a lot of other morphs it could be. The issue or concern I guess I would have about just casting the tutelage here, this can get a little hairy if Rudy's got imagine he's got, you know, a negate and some other threats. You may not be able to resolve your angers this game.
I guess because Stratus Dancer will counter one and then negate can counter the other.
It's a little bit of a risk. It's possible that the second tutelage speeds up Evaldi's clock so much that it doesn't really matter all that much, but this is not zero risk.
Who says Mark has to cast another spell? You love bringing up the tutelage activation.
That is true. He can play around the counters that way.
Yeah.
It's a really slow way to do it.
Well, it's at least 4 cards every time you use it. Maybe more than that. Exquisite Firecraft. There's a Jace. Are you trying to leave up counterspell mana here? Evaldi will trigger. Let's see how many cards for Briksza. 2 and 2. So 4 total there, just on the draw step. Radiant Fountain was the draw there for Evaldi. That's kind of like a time walk. Send to Sleep, 2 copies of Anger of the Gods. Really good spot here for Mark. Doesn't mean it's over for Briksza, but it's a really good spot here for Evaldi.
And Send to Sleep is a lot of cushion here as well.
Yeah.
So with that card in hand, casting the second tutelage, less risky than it would appear.
You want to talk about getting Spell Mastery for a card. That's real easy. Stratus Dancer is going to unmegamorph. That's going to counter the Anger of the Gods. What's next here for Mark Evaldi? If anything. He doesn't have to do too much to finish off Rudy.
The risk here is that Jace does facilitate some burnouts.
There's Send to Sleep. Jace's going to go active. Draw another copy of Jace. You do have to be worried about that. I don't disagree with you at all. Jace is going to flip into the Telepath Unbound now. Stratus Dancer done for this turn and next.
You know, Rudy has shown cards like Jeskai Charm, Exquisite Firecraft.
Has Exquisite Firecraft in hand right now.
Yeah, this is, you know, Mark's clock is reasonably fast, and he does gain a little bit of life here and there, but it's possible Briksza could win this game without ever getting into combat again.
Yep. Jace ticks up. Pass the turn back. Evaldi going to trigger Sphinx's Tutelage. 4 cards get milled over. Anger of the Gods in hand, though that's not doing very much right now. But also Rudy's not doing very much. So, okay, well, 4 cards, I think.
All right, well, then that should just be a tutelage activation unless we have miscounted.
It's kind of crazy how fast that library goes. You don't even really notice, right? Yeah, there's just a tutelage activation. Turn over 4 cards, and that's going to do it. Mark Evaldi's going to win this match over Rudy Briksza. 2-1. Blue-red tutelage going to take down Jeskai aggro. And for the kind of unique combo deck that Michael Majors did win a Grand Prix with, Mark Evaldi's 4-0 with it here.
So yeah, this is a challenging deck for us to cover because we don't have a great sense of how many cards are necessarily left in someone's deck. So a lot of the plays that Evaldi took where I was thinking, well, maybe that's a little risky. Maybe you want to just anger this turn, et cetera, et cetera. It turned out that Briksza's deck was way more nuked than I already thought it was.
Yeah.